Tim, thank you very much for seeing us here at Grenson's HQ. This is amazing, your empire out there on the factory floor.
Yeah, this is it. This is the new factory. We've been here for 2 years, having been in the last factory for nearly 100 years. So, wow. Yeah, still quite new to us.
Well, I mean, this is it, because obviously Grensons are the name on everybody's lips/feet at the minute, but obviously it's a brand with a lot of history. How far does the Grenson story go back?
Well, Grenson was started in 1866, so next year's our 150th anniversary, which is really exciting, a little bit scary as well, but really exciting. And it's been continuous production literally since 1866, and always within half a mile of where we are now. So a lot of the people who work here, their ancestors worked here many, many years ago. So it's a very kind of lovely kind of heritage historical story.
Is that what's connecting with people? I mean, how did you come into the mix here with Grensons, and what attracted you? Was it this kind of rich history?
Yeah, very much so. I had my own collection, but I'd bought Grenson shoes since I was young, and I loved the story. I loved all the Northampton shoemakers have a lovely rich heritage. And the previous owner of Grenson was looking for somebody to help him kind of turn it around, because it had lost its way. It's very easy for a very old brand to become old-fashioned. And I think what we needed to do, and what hopefully we've done, or begun to do at least, is to kind of marry the heritage and all the lovely history of what we do, and bring it up to date, make it more modern and make it more relevant to today.
So how do you do that? What do you think people are looking for? Because it seems to me like, you know, while fast fashion is still huge business, people are looking for something that has a little bit more soul about it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we feel that the internet, I mean, it's really boring to talk about the internet again, but the internet is such a powerful tool now for people to learn about products and learn about things that they buy. And it's meant that companies like us, instead of just being a shoe on a shelf in Selfridges, nowadays people can actually look it up and read about the history and see what Grenson used to be and how we make things and what we make and who started the company. And I think that's the same with a lot of products, where people now are buying into the whole story behind them, not just the actual product themselves. So that's really exciting for us, because we've got a great story to tell. So, you know, I think it gives us a bit of an advantage over newer brands.
So I've got one of my pairs of Grensons on today, which I love, because when I wear them in the street, you get like the nod from other Grensons wearers. Sometimes they'll be like, yeah, well done, good boot. I mean, how long would it take to make a boot like this? Like, how many stages are there in the production process?
So a boot like that, the stages would be about something like 200 to 250 different separate operations. So here, for example, the leather literally comes in. We talk about skin to box, where the leather comes in the doorway at the back there, goes all the way through the processes and ends up as a pair of shoes at the end. And it's about 200 to 250 operations, depending on what the shoe is. It would take us about start to finish probably about 2 weeks to make a pair like that. But part of that time is the shoe actually sitting on the last. So the longer the leather can actually sit on the last and basically rest, the more it adopts the shape of the last. Whereas in China, for example, they have a rule about what they call the 5-minute shoe, which is anything under 5 minutes. If it takes longer than 5 minutes to make, it's not commercial. So you can see the kind of difference between mass production and this kind of production.
And is that why they're so comfortable? Because when I first got them, I thought, oh, these are going to take a bit of wearing in. And actually, first day, like fantastic. By the end of the day, just perfect.
Well, yeah, I mean, English shoes generally are known for being sturdy and quite solid and need a bit of breaking in. But I kind of feel that if they're made of really lovely materials, and if the leather is really soft and really high quality, they don't need to be that stiff and they don't need to be that hard. But yeah, that is it. I mean, it's about quality, and it's about, we always think that an English shoe, the more you wear it, the better it gets. And again, those great materials, that great, lovely, gorgeous, soft leather, as you wear it, it gets a bit bashed up and it fits around your foot and it starts to shape around your foot. And that's what makes them really lovely.
So what are your most popular styles? Obviously, you know, we're here with a proliferation of gorgeous Grensons around us. What are your best sellers and your kind of most iconic pairs?
Well, we started, when I first got here, I looked at all the shoes that we made, and there were various things that weren't selling very well and some were selling okay. And I said, is there a shoe here that A, sells the best, and B, that's been in the collection the longest? And they brought out a shoe called Albert. And he was Albert was start with, I love the name, but he was called Albert, and he was this tan brogue, classic English tan brogue, wingtip brogue. And we put that on the table, and I said, right, that's going to be the beginning of Grenson going forwards, because that's our heritage, that's been in the collection for many, many years, and we're going to take that, and we're going to do a very slightly younger version of it. We're going to rework it. We're not going to lose it, we're going to keep making that as well, but we're going to do a new version, and he's going to be called Stanley. And that was in 2005, and Stanley in tan, as he's known, is still our best-selling shoe.
I got into Grensons through my husband, and you know, I didn't really know much about the brand, but he was quite an early adopter. Now, I'm sure that you did the big flat form first, because I remember him bringing a pair of Grensons home very early days, maybe about 2010 with the flat form, and thinking like, whoa, what are those? That looks wild. I mean, loved it, but kind of like they were really quite, I mean, I suppose cutting edge. Were you the first people to do that flat form? Because you see it everywhere now. I've seen imitations everywhere.
Yeah, oh, it's absolutely everywhere now. I mean, it gets to the point where, you know, we almost think about, if we were brave enough, we'd kind of kill it off and say we're not going to do it anymore because everybody else does it. But I'm not brave enough, so we'll keep it in the collection. And I love it as well because it's practical. We get a lot of people who are like sneaker guys who saw the thing about brogues and about, you know, proper shoes, if you want to call them that, and thought, and this was a bridging thing for them, where it had a kind of sneaker sole and it was comfortable and it wasn't a leather sole that they might slip over in. So it's been really important for us.
I guess with such kind of skilled people making the shoes, perhaps sometimes they have a kind of technical innovation that they can bring.
Yeah, we do. We get a lot of innovation from the factory floor because these guys are the guys actually making it, and they come up with little techniques and little ideas, and they love the idea of suggesting things that then end up on a shoe that then becomes in a magazine or somebody famous wears it, and you know, they love being part of all that. So we have a thing called the triple welt at the moment, and a guy came to me who does all the welts on the shoes, does all the sole stitching, and he showed me this thing and it was beautiful, it was really gorgeous, and I would never have thought of it in a million years. And we took it and we put a little collection of shoes and we gave it a name, we called it the triple welt, and we did a box for it in a bag and did all these different things. And it became a thing out of nowhere, but it's all about something that he designed down there that didn't come out of a design studio or off a computer.
So Tim, for me, the brogue was my Grenson's gateway shoe into this world of footwear delight. Is that always the case for women? Is that usually the case?
Not necessarily.
Oh, right.
No, not necessarily for women, because for some women it's too obviously a man's shoe. It's still our best seller for women, definitely, but there are women who say, I'm not sure about that, I want something a bit softer, I want softer looking, I mean, like a loafer. Loafers are very big for us, for women, and it's a very personal thing. I think this type of shoe is a great thing. I think a lot of women are coming to a flat shoe now and thinking, yeah, I'll still have the heels, I want the heels for certain things, but to go out in the day, I feel so much kind of more confident and cool and relaxed in a pair of flat shoes like this, and not kind of falling over and clipping down on the heels and tripping over the pavement when running to something. And before, they maybe looked frumpy when you were wearing them, but if we can make them look more interesting, cooler and more, you know, and I think the time is right, basically. I think it's happened a lot in fashion, and men's and women's fashion has come together a bit more. As you say, people are looking for simple, iconic things that last and are a bit more timeless and what have you. And I think, yeah, I think now's the time, hopefully.
Okay. So when did you introduce the women's line? Tell me a little bit about that.
It was about 3 years ago, and we'd seen it in the history of Grenson that they'd introduced women's 2 or 3 times, and it had run for a few years and then kind of stopped. And we kind of thought, maybe we're going to have the same thing, where it might work for a little bit and then stop, or we're going to be seen as more of a men's brand. But we had so many women were kind of emailing and phoning and asking us in the stores, could we do some of these shoes for women? Could we do them in smaller sizes? Could we do them narrower? Could we do them in slightly brighter colours or whatever? And it became often it was somebody's boyfriend or husband or partner who would say, you should try these. And so we went for it and we tried it. We started off literally replicating the men's shoes for women's for the first 2 seasons. Then we started introducing colour, a lot more colour, silver, gold, fluorescent, all kinds of things. Some worked, some didn't, some were horrendous. And then it's kind of developed from there. Now we do quite a lot of the styles are specific to women.
So what's next then? We've done autumn winter, and you've told us about your French brogue. I mean, looking to the future, obviously, you know, you're designing a year ahead. Where's your head at, and what are you thinking?
Well, I'm all over the place at the moment. I've briefed in quite a few weird and wonderful things. We've briefed in some quite high boots. Wanted to have a go at quite a high boot, see how that works. So we did for spring summer. We did sandals for the first time, but a proper broguey sandal type thing, and playing around, as I said before, with shearling. Doing some really luxurious linings to shoes and things, so they're really comfortable and gorgeous and that kind of thing. So, yeah, and lots of loafers still. Loafers are still big, yeah.
And what about metallics? Are metallics here to stay?
Metallics are big, yeah. They're still big, and every season people get drawn to the metallics. So, with women's, what's really exciting is that we get to spend in the design department, we get to spend a lot more time looking at leathers and materials. With women's, you can have a field day, you can play around, anything that's really gorgeous and looks lovely. It doesn't matter how brave it is, it will work if it looks good, if it looks right. And
what about looking ahead to brand expanding? As you say, you're quite conscious to stick to what you do really, really well, but people must be asking you in terms of other accessories, what's next, and how far beyond shoes will it go?
Yeah, we've been really careful to stick to what we know and kind of get it right and not jump into 1,000 things. And I also quite like the idea of buying a watch from a watch company and buying a shoe from a shoe company and a bag from, people who specialise in things. I quite like that idea. So I wanted us to stick to what we know. However, I think a natural progression is bags and leather accessories and wallets and things. And it's a big challenge because, sitting down doing a shoe collection has become, quite not easy, but it's become natural to us. And sitting down doing a bag collection is really hard, We all know what we like and what we don't like, but how do you do something completely new or something a bit different and in the way we have with the shoes? So watch this space.
That's the next problem to solve. We'll wish you luck with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.